everybody, this is Sandy Rizaldi, soon to be Dr. Rizaldi. I am going to start talking to you about my findings of my workplace violence project. I want to thank everybody that has helped me on Nurses Against Violence, and I truly appreciate it. I've talked to people off record and on record, and I still will keep you anonymous just because of the fact that that's just what I do. So I want to talk to you a little bit about reporting. So we've got some issues that are going on with that, and it goes into a very deep rabbit hole. Like, you can't even find the end. But we're going to try to make that attempt to do that. So here we go. We got Nurse Amy. She was taking care of Mr. Smith, and then he decides to hit her upside the face. So this is what happens next, right? So, can't spell. Okay, so we have different places, things that needs to be done, right? I did not take English classes. I got my doctorate in nursing, so my English is a little off. You gotta pardon me. All right, so I like concept maps. My students know that I like concept maps. So we have the charge, right? And then we have the nurse manager, and then we have the oncoming. All right, so the nurse files her report. It's going to be an online report, right? So it'll either be that or it'll be a paper report. So we have paper. My board is not big enough. Online. Okay, so regardless, it's going to take a long time. So this is going to be where nurses are going to have to cover this nurse while she is filling out a report. So it goes deeper from that. So not only that nurse gets injured once, she gets victimized again twice, because nurses like to eat their sideline. They're young and they're old. They're just the way it is. So she gets victimized not even once, but twice. She has to file a report. After she files a report, they're going to send her to the ED, where guess what happens? She has to take a drug test. So when she takes a drug test, that is number 3. Why does she have to take a drug test? Because she got hit in the face by Mr. Smith. So she's has to get a drug test. All right, so that's number 3, right? So what happens next? I am going to take this another step. So, do you want to file charges or do you not want to file charges against this patient that just hit you? Well, if you want to file charges, you have to either go on your own time, and if you're lucky, they'll do it at the facility. But more than likely, you'll have to do it on your own time. So, charges, charges or not, so that's so that could be like a felony in some states, right? Not in Florida unless you're an ED worker. If you're an ED nurse, then you get to file charges and it's a felony. You can file charges anyway, but regardless, it's going to be a felony in Florida. So we have charges that have been filed offline. Okay, so that's on your own time. So that's number 4. How are you victimized by doing that? Because it happened on the clock, so why do you have to do it on your own time? Okay, so we got that point straight. All right, so you're at the ED. You get your drug test. You are out of work for, we'll say, 3 to 4 weeks. Because you have to go see an oral surgeon because your jaw is not aligning right anymore. We're just using that as an example. It could be that you have an arm injury. It could be that you have some sort of injury that leaves you out 3 to 4 weeks. All right, so now we're there. Not once, but twice, but 3 times, 4 times. All right, so check this out. You're out now 3 to 4 weeks. You're out on workman's compensation. How much does workers' compensation pay? What was that? 60 to 65%. Okay, So they pay only 60 to 65% of your pay. So we'll just say 65, just because we want to be nice. How long does it take you to get a paycheck when you're out initially? About 1 to 2 weeks, right? Well, you have PTO time. PTO time is very precious to all of us. That is the time that we are awarded by the company because of the fact that we, to have vacation and stuff like that. It's very welcomed and we do appreciate it. But this is what happens. So we have, we'll just bring another one, right? We have PTO time. I can't write either. PTO time, so the PTO time, that is bank time. So they use between this and this to start making your paycheck. So whatever the difference between 100% and 65, well, we'll say 35%. Okay, so 35% of your pay to make 100% of your paycheck. Right, so when your 1 to 2 weeks is up, you'll start getting a paycheck for 100%. That is so awesome. Now Nurse Sandy is a single parent that has 2 kids, barely getting child support. What happens next? Okay, so we'll say she only really gets 1 to 2 weeks of this. Wondering if she's out for a longer period of time. Wondering if she has a spinal injury. Wondering if. Okay. So now Sandy's workman's compensation continues, but this runs out because all that time that she wanted to bank and take her kids to Disney World is now used up. So that is number 5. Victimized again. And then once this is done, she is now getting 65% of her pay until she decides to go back to work. So that is number 6. Okay. So wonder if the doctor does not want to make sure that, doesn't let her get her released until about 8 weeks, 9 weeks. So she continues to get for another, I don't know, I said 6 to 8 weeks, so another 2 to 4 weeks, 65% of her pay. How is that going to put food on the table, pay the rent, pay the bills, right? Because all of this is no more, there's no more PTO. There is only workman's compensation. Now, since she's been gone for about 8 weeks, right? Nurse Sandy, her job has been posted because they needed somebody to fill her spot. They didn't fill her spot. They were using agency or they were using some other ways of, extra staffing for the hospital. So that's how they were able to fill her shifts. Well, what happens if there's not enough staffing? Okay, so this is where we get into the staffing issue, right? So we have the staffing issue, and so this is a problem. All right, so let me regroup here. 1, she got injured. 2, she's out and the nurses are having to cover her shift, so they're not exactly happy. Number 3, she has to do a drug test because automatically they're going to try to release themselves of, the facility's going to release themselves of any liability to make sure that their employee was not causing the problem. And, oh, I forgot. They might even suspend the nurse because they might have to do a further investigation, so that even might be without pay. We'll put that in there. How do you like my concept map? Without pay. Investigation. Okay, isn't that great? So that would be, let's see, where are we at? Number 7? It's pretty bad. All right, so let me get my handy dandy eraser, just in case I might need it. So now that she is under investigation and she did not do anything intentionally or anything to this patient because he might be withdrawing, she might have missed something, and we will go over that in another video. So we've got a victimization of 7 times. Without pay, investigation, or 65% of her pay. So just thinking about this, would a nurse decide that they're going to freely report? Probably not, because they're going to automatically feel that they were being retaliated against just by looking at this pattern. So not only we have this, and then we have this, so now, oh wait, hold on, it's actually number 8, because I don't even know where to stem this off from. We'll just stem it from here. So the nurse has no place, no job really, right? She's just going to be floating around if she comes back. So that's number 8. Right? So she's penalized without now a set job. She does not know where she needs to go. I kind of understand from an organizational point of view, but I don't understand because of the fact I'm a nurse and I would be in this position, right? I've never been in this position, but I see the point. So we have no job now. So Nurse Sandy resigns, wants to start over in a new facility. Oh, this is where it gets real interesting. All right, so we've been victimized once, twice, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and well, this isn't exactly, this might be a reward, but let's take this another step. Okay, so I'll just kind of keep it like that. So we have, the facility is so gracious and they're so kind. I'm being a little facetious, but it's kind of nice, but the facility ends up, they're like, hey, you know what? We know you've been through a traumatic event. We want to make sure that you're okay. So when you do come back, that you are ready to go and, you know, we're worried about you. So they send you to EAP. EAP is connected to the organization. All right, so we left off at number 8, right? So the EAP is connected, which is the Employee Assistance Program. So what happens is you go see the therapist for about 6 to 8 sessions, right? They're really helping you out and you're feeling a bit better, but yet, you know, you're on all these medications now and you have post-traumatic stress, you're burnt out, you just can't stand your freaking job and nobody's supportive and all this other crap, right? Which is mainly true. You report this to the EAP. Remember, it's connected to the organization. So guess what? What happens if it's connected to the organization? You think your record is private? Yes, theoretically it should be because of HIPAA. But what ends up happening is that they can subpoena that and they know you're seeing a therapist. So guess what? They now know you hate your job, right? You have PTSD, you have burnout, and this is where we leave at number 9. There's also more avenues too. We're at number 9, victimization. Because how about you, when you resign, you're going to be taking a job someplace else and they're going to be what is on your job application. Do you have post-traumatic stress disorder? Do you have burnout? Do you hate your job? Which that's not going to be on there, but you're really going to hate your job. But they're going to know about it because they're going to find out somehow, right? People talk. So maybe I'm making this bigger than it is, but just think about it. I'm provoking thought. So we have number 9, PTSD and burnout. There's also things on applications about depression. There's things if you've been in a traumatic event. So that traumatic event automatically triggers the fact that you've been assaulted at work. Well, if you were assaulted at work, what ends up happening is that, well, are you a liability for that next company? Think about it. Okay? That's all I'm trying to do. All right, so 9 times, right? So when you get injured, usually you tell the charge nurse, right? You're like, hey, Mr. Smith just clocked me upside the face. You know, whatever, I need to go get checked out if you think it's that bad enough. If you've been through all of this before, do you think that you're honestly going to go and report an injury? Probably not. So you have a charge nurse, you're going to let them know. What do? Do they report it? They might have a reporting system, but I've seen some of the reporting systems. It is under miscellaneous or provision of care. So automatically, if you make this report, they're going to come on you. And more than likely, if you do not do the injury, the facility is going to look at you, what did you do wrong? And they're going to put a microscope right over you. This is all research, guys. This is all the things that I've been working on. And there's way more stuff that I've been working on. So I want you to stay tuned. So the nurse manager Some facilities have, well, most facilities have a zero tolerance policy. Well, more than likely they don't adhere to it. So that, and if they do have one, it's usually between staff and it's usually nurses on patients. So that's the mindset of most organizations. So you'd go and tell your nurse manager, and they might have a document that says, hey, Mr. Smith, did he do this, blah, 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 blah. They might fill it out. Or they might not want that retaliation either. And they won't do anything about it. They'll just go talk to Mr. Smith and smooth it over and get a sitter. That's what happens. So does anything ever happen? Does anything change? No. All right, so take this in consideration. So you let your oncoming nurse know, you know, Susie Q's coming on shift, you're letting her know, Mr. Smith clocked me upside the head, I'm good, I'm all right, but here's the deal, watch out for that right hook. The nurse manager smooths it over, everything's fine with Mr. Smith, nothing's being reported. So again, when you report this in the computerized reporting system, more than likely it's going under a miscellaneous file, and it's unknown. It doesn't really go anywhere, it doesn't not get clocked. Now here's another thing that's even more insane. Ready? In some places they call codes for violent patients. Alright? When they call a code for a violent patient, usually somebody from the ER or somebody comes from mental health, which everybody should know mental health. It's everybody's job. Anyway, that was my soapbox. And the administrator. So the administrator, the only data that we could find that was linked to getting more education about de-escalation was the only ones that the administrator would fill out the report. So again, what did I say? The administrator, the AOD, administrator on duty, would fill out a paper report, and then it would go to data, which could be counted. What about this? That's what I would like to know about. Where does that go? It goes into a big file. Do they go over it? More than likely not. Because there's so many injuries that are happening out there. The American Nurses Association did a survey last year. It was the In-Nurse Abuse panel that they put together. They did a survey of about 62% out of 14,000 nurses had said that they had been verbally and physically abused. Whereas that's a lot higher in SNFs, which are skilled nursing facilities and assisted livings. Okay? So all I have to say is, I just looked at the facts. The facts are going to say volumes. So if you have any further questions, or if you would like any further input, anything that you'd like me to cover, use me as your advocate, because I'll be happy to speak my mind about this situation, because I love nursing. All the best to you guys, and I wish you all well. Thank you.